All right, ladies and gentlemen, we are live again for the millionth time. You're lucky. Back here on the Legends Comicast, we are live here with all the late breaking news. This week was a big week. It was a special week. It was a magical week. New York Comic Con took place, so all kinds of wonderful things that we're going to be talking to you about today. All of those things happen to be comic book related, so if by any means you kind of snuck into this podcast thinking, hey, maybe they're going to talk about something that doesn't have to do with comic books, today's not your day, my friend. It's not your day. Mm-hmm. So Jordan, I'm going to let you take it off today. I'm going to let you pick our first topic. What do you want to discuss?
Oh, bro, you skipped the introductions and everything.
I didn't even... You're right. I skipped everything. All right, I'm sorry. I'm Nick, your host. I'm assuming by now, if you've been listening, you're probably up to speed with who's on here. It's pretty much the same people every week. I'm Nick, your host. With me, as always, is the talented, 3-time rap battle East Coast champion, Jordan Seth Roach.
How's it going, guys?
And his trusty sidekick, 4-time Polka National Crowned Invitational recipient, Garrett Gilmore.
Yo.
All right, now that we've done the introductions, if you're watching this, you see animated pictures of us. You know who we are. We're the first 3 people in that picture, from left to right. The last person, Hyper Chick, or whatever we're calling her this week. Not here tonight, but whatever. We'll get her next time. All right, Jordan, take it away.
All right, let's do it. Let's just, since we have so much to talk about today, let's go ahead and jump into TV from this week, because it's probably, honestly, the most important. So, if you didn't catch it, The Flash finally premiered this week, Episode 1, Season 1, and we here at the Legends Comicast thought that it was pretty fantastic. So let's start off the discussion here by hearing what Garrick has to say about the show. How do you think it was?
Hearing what I have to say. Wow, I never get to go first. This is amazing.
I know, right?
Let me jump in here then.
Yeah, go ahead, by all means.
No, go ahead, Garrett.
So yeah, The Flash premiered, and the hype around it was pretty big, and the hype was real. I went in really optimistic about it, just with an open mind, hoping that I could enjoy it. Hoping that we'd have a new vigilante that I could support and root for. And I think I was pleasantly surprised with actually how good it was, even going in with all the hype and everything. I thought it was really solid. To me, it was like a mini movie, sort of, not just like a pilot episode for a TV show or anything. Like it had a solid story from beginning to end, and really didn't have any lulls. Most of it was pretty engaging. I thought the actors all did pretty well. The only nitpicky thing I have to say is Iris was a little weird. But besides that, I thought all the actors were great. The story was fun for a first episode, and I can't wait to see more, especially considering what happened in the last few seconds there.
Can I play devil's advocate for 1 second, please?
By all means.
I 100% agree with you.
Good.
I thought it was definitely the most fun I've had in a while watching a pilot episode. You know, when you watch a show like Gotham take off, and you kind of watch a superhero show that has no superheroes in it, you kind of start to wonder, what pieces can they pin together to make the average person interested? Because really, that show's kind of like it's almost like a tease every week. But The Flash has been great. I mean, even one episode in, because you're already introducing into the world of Arrow and The Flash the concept of metahumans, or people with powers. So not only is it okay for Barry to run, at the speed of light, you also have a guy that can control the weather. You have, all these other different characters that are going to show up, and there was a ton of Easter eggs in the episode that kind of alludes to where things might go in the future. And it's just refreshing to see DC and the CW specifically saying, okay, we're gonna take a little bit of a chance here. We're going to give people powers. We're going to say, this isn't just a far-fetched vigilante show or a cop drama or whatever it happens to be. We're going to let there be a guy that runs the speed of light. We're going to let there be, a giant gorilla with telepathy, hopefully down the road in Grodd. But there's all kinds of stuff that you have in this show that really opens the door to CW's, or I mean, even in general, just DC's ability to open their television world up. And a lot of comic books seem to lend themselves to the episodic television format much better than a movie would or something of that nature. So I'm really excited about all these television shows being announced, and I think that these studios are on the right track by making them into TV shows rather than films. What do you think, Jordan?
I mean, I agree. I think The Flash was fantastic this first episode. I really enjoyed it. The fan service was amazing. Just little Easter eggs in there for comic book fans that have been following the characters for a long time. And like Garrick said, I got that kind of like that mini movie feel too. The effects were pretty good for a show on the CW. I was kind of worried about that coming into it. But I really, really enjoyed it. And I am definitely going to be tuning in for the rest of the season. Speaking of The Flash, if you're paying attention to the pictures right now, I guess these pictures of the Reverse Flash leaked this week, and that brings me to another point that I really like the costumes in this show. I think we were all kind of skeptical of the Flash's costume when we first saw it back a few months ago, but I think it's translated to the screen a little bit better than what we all anticipated. What do you guys think?
Yeah, I think you can't have a guy wearing like a one-piece leotard and have it be like an acceptable thing for television. But
oh man, why not?
Not the kind of shows you watch, Garrett. But I think that it's kind of cool. The color scheme might not be what Garrett and I wanted. And everybody has their little taste of what they'd like in their one of their favorite characters to show up on. But I think they're doing a pretty good job. And there's a lot of if you're a fan of the Flash and you kind of know what's coming, or if you have a good idea of what's coming with the Reverse Flash, or what happened to Barry's family or these other characters, without us spoiling it for you, because that's not what we're here for. But I think you have an idea of what the character costumes are going to look like. And I know that specifically coming up is going to be one of my favorite DC villains. His name is Captain Cold, and you simply can't have Captain Cold's costume be the same way on television as it is in the comics, because honestly, it's freaking ridiculous looking. But they're doing their best to modernize it, make it look like it would appear if it this stuff actually happened in the world. And Eobard Thrawn, or the Reverse Flash's costume, looks pretty sweet. It's the antithesis of Barry's, so hopefully it'll be pretty cool with respect to kind of how his stuff works out. And the only thing I really want to see out of this is I kind of hope they get to a point where Barry's costume pops out of a ring. That's really all I want to happen.
That would be pretty sweet.
With all the science going on in the show, someone goes, you know what, your costume's coming out of this ring, and he just accepts it. And no one notices that he's wearing the Flash ring. What do you think, Garrick? I know Garrick's a big Flash fan. He reads Flash.
I mean, no, I don't want that to happen.
You don't want the costume to come out of a ring? That is just preposterous.
Jeez,
I think it. I mean, I think.
I see where your loyalties lie, bro.
It would be a little bit ridiculous for this
Flash
kind
amazing.
of show. But I mean, in the comics and in cartoons, it's cool, but it just doesn't make sense really at all. But I guess I could go for it. I mean, if they're gonna force it on me, I'll accept it as what it is. But I'm probably 50-50 on that, actually.
Mm-hmm.
As far as Easter eggs go in this premiere, there's like 1 million. So if you haven't seen it yet, keep your eyes out, or eyes open.
Or just take them out.
Keep your eyes right out of your head if you can. Just take them out. That's the best way.
Glue them to your screen, because there's a lot. But I give it a solid 9 out of 10. I was super excited for this, and seeing it actually happen has made me even more excited for the rest of the season. So I hope the momentum keeps up and it stays as fun and as fluid as the first pilot episode was.
I
Absolutely.
want to say that to tag along to what he's saying is, there are some rumors going along that not only the CW has Arrow, which is based off Green Arrow. They have the Flash, which is based off the Flash, but now they're also in talks to launch a third series, and they haven't really announced what that is yet. But it just gives me nothing but hope for whatever it is that they happen to do next. So the next project they do, whether it happens to be a Suicide Squad show, or there's tons and tons of different potential that they have out there that they can adapt to the small screen, and it just gives me hope because it's really cool week after week to see a different superhero show. We've jumped into the Flash. If you want to learn more about what we thought about the Flash, jump onto our Facebook page, read our review on there. It's pretty cool. We definitely gave it a solid, as a group, we gave it a 9 out of 10. We really liked the episode. It was a great pilot. It's definitely opens the door for the Arrow / Flash television universe. It makes all kinds of cool things possible. But next thing we'll discuss is the premiere of the Arrow season 3 premiere. So I know that a lot of you guys, I know that you guys, we've kind of talked offline. Usually I don't go first, but I'll go ahead and go first just because I almost never do that. But I also kind of really, really dug this episode. It wasn't as hard hitting or wasn't as fast paced as the Flash. Ooh, Flash pun. But it was cool to see, Roy as Arsenal, kind of as Arrow's sidekick showing up. It was cool to see a new villain. It was cool to see, a new version of Vertigo and all this other stuff that was going on. But it almost kind of felt like reuniting with people you haven't seen out while you've been drinking for a while. Like, it was just a cool segue back into what's going on. And it was almost like, it almost felt like a lot of pieces of last season were being tied up in this first episode. But I liked it a lot. I thought it had a lot of cool stuff going on, and I think the season overall is probably going to be their best yet. What do you guys think about it?
I'd have to agree. I thought it was really cool. I enjoyed the beginning of that episode a lot, where the team was looking very well oiled, if you will. Roy's kind of settled into that true sidekick role. He's got all the Mercury and all that out of him. So I enjoyed looking at his progression. Felicity's being very oracle-y. People's about to have babies. Relationships are blooming. So it was cool seeing them kind of have like a moment of peace before everything got into, I guess, the Ra's al Ghul stuff that's about to happen throughout the rest of the season. But it was a pretty good episode, especially that cliffhanger at the end, which I won't ruin for you guys.
We should ruin it. I'm just kidding.
Should.
What do you think, Garrick? Garrick, if you want to ruin it, you can ruin it. I don't care.
I mean,
he's known for ruining it.
I am the spoiler guy, and I do have quite a few complaints about it.
Come on.
He's the Stephanie Brown level spoiler.
Yeah, like top tier. So, but I won't. I promise. But yeah, to basically echo what you guys said, I really enjoyed the Roy Harper dynamic. I like that they just threw him in this time gap that we've had between season 2 and 3. Apparently he's progressed and become better at what he's been doing, and I like that we're just thrown in. He's already established himself, and we don't have to go through this boring phase of him training and all this other stuff. So I really, really like that. I really liked the way Oliver handled the whole Diggle situation, with him having a new child and everything going on with that. Giving him a break, I think, was very wise. So, keeping him out of the field is going to keep him more focused on the job, I think, and less worried about himself and his family. So I really like that move. I don't really like the Oliver Felicity dynamic. I don't think they work very well together as a couple.
I feel
so
like
I don't think that
you, Garrick.
Yeah, probably. But I'm kind of glad that fizzled out. I don't know how you guys feel about it, but I'm not really on that hype train. But
I'll say that the one thing that this show has always killed me with, and the one thing that I thought has always held this show back, has been the constant level of melodrama surrounding Oliver's romantic uh, attractions and the girls that he's into. I feel like it wouldn't hurt the show to just go a season where maybe Oliver wasn't nailing everything that's on the screen. Like it's cool, like, you know, you want him to be a playboy and this, that, and the other thing, but at the same time, like, if every episode you have to have him chasing some girl that's about to get blown up by whatever, it kind of hurts the pace of the show and doesn't really give the character that much of a chance to to develop, especially when, like, you want to see him progress as a character, but he keeps making the same exact, like, decisions. He's progressing as Arrow. He's doing better as Arrow and as a leader here and there, but, like, he's always like, oh, this week I'm dating Laurel. Oh, I'm not dating Laurel. Now I'm dating Sarah. Oh, I'm not dating Sarah. Now I'm dating Felicity. Oh, I'm not dating Felicity, but I'm dating Sarah again. Oh, I'm not dating Sarah. Like nobody cares. Just give it a rest. Like, let's, I'm dating Shadow on the island. Just let's break apart from that and have him grow as a hero. And then if he wants to get a love interest down the road, then it's cool. But, like, don't throw him away so easily. Like, make it be. The problem with the show and their love interest is every time you start to care about the fact that he has a love interest, he dumps them, like, instantly. Like, no girl lasts on his arm longer than 3 or 4 episodes before he's over it and he moves on to the next one. And it's always the same thing. He's always like, oh, I can't be with you and be the Arrow at the same time, and you're, like, only the 19th person that's found out that I'm the Arrow. So
True.
Just move on from it, and, if you want to get with whoever down the road, then get with whoever down the road. But, let's focus on being the Arrow for now and being Oliver Queen, like, head playboy later.
Yeah. And also, one thing I really liked about this episode, like you said, Nick, earlier, was the new villain. I thought he was pretty interesting. I know he's just, like, one of the cronies of the eventual villain we're going to be led into, but I like the new... Yeah, Ra's al Ghul. I really like the new Vertigo drug. I think it would be cool since... going with the whole fear thing, if they brought in Ra's al Ghul and Scarecrow, but that would kind of be, basically ripping off Batman Begins, so I don't know how people would feel about that, but I feel like that's probably the direction they're going, because Batman has a lot of villains that the Arrow can really contend with, because, he doesn't have superpowers and things like that. And they're not going to put Batman on the screen, the way we want to see him, not a whiny little baby like he is in Gotham.
Let's not talk about Gotham.
Let's not. But, yeah, the only thing that's disappointed me, and it wasn't even with this episode, it's just the Arrow writers in general said they're going to try and shy away from superhero beings in the show, because basically they said we have another show for that. So that kind of sucks that Oliver won't be taking on any superhero people, and the Atom won't be the Atom in the Arrow, but he will eventually make his transition to the Flash and use his powers and things like that. It just kind of sucks that he's being handicapped in that way. And it's probably for the viewers that are already dedicated to the show and don't really understand all this superhero stuff, but, it's whatever.
Still pretty solid.
Yeah, I mean, it's still pretty good. It's one of those things that if at this point we're 3 seasons in, if you're not digging the Flash, then, or if you're not digging Arrow or you're not digging the Flash, then it's probably not your cup of tea. Go back to Walking Dead or whatever it happens to be, your flavor. But what's next on the docket there, Mr. Roach?
Well, since we're talking about TV, let's go ahead and talk about a little bit more TV. So, if you didn't already know, New York Comic Con was this past weekend. That's actually where our 4th member, Rachel, is right now. But at New York Comic Con, we got our first glimpse at Daredevil from this Netflix series. And I don't know a lot about Daredevil, so I'm going to let Nick go ahead and handle this outfit that we see him in here initially.
Sure. So without, like, spending too much of a history lesson on Daredevil here, like I typically tend to ramble off on my own. But so in in different versions of Daredevil, any comic book character has, their own different versions of the character, but this is kind of more of I guess I would say a more noir version of Daredevil, where he doesn't necessarily have the leather, outfit that you saw in the 2003 film, but it's more of a faithful kind of what you'd expect a guy who's just really super blind just to wear if he was about to fight crime in New York. He's just rocking pretty much an all black or all really really dark red costume, kind of with a very dark headband on, just something to conceal his identity. And you can kind of see what the producers are going for here. They're not really going for the camp and the flair that is a red suit with a baton and leather, a leather outfit or whatever it happens to be. They're kind of just going for a guy that can kind of move undetected. And Daredevil doesn't have any superpowers, so it kind of works really well. Stealth has always worked for him. He fights hand to hand. He doesn't have any super strength. He doesn't have super speed. He just has really good, really attuned senses. So, he can read people's heartbeats. He can tell when people are lying. He can tell when people are nervous, when they're about to throw, a punch, when they're about to duck. That's his thing. It's kind of weird. He's just a really good brawler, and he's also pretty decent at practicing law. But what you'll see here that we have on the screen is just a quick collage of the concept photo from the Daredevil stuff that Marvel's released for the series. In the top left, you'll see the concept art, which is like a bloody fist and him kind of in like a black and white thing. Then you'll see on the right, you'll see Charlie Cox as Matt Murdock, clearly with a black eye, like he's been out fighting crime. And then finally at the bottom, you'll see the newest image, which is him in his suit. And the one thing I'll say about all of this is that I kind of like the bloody fist
Me too.
image, because being on Netflix and seeing that it might maybe have a darker tone to it, Daredevil, especially Frank Miller's work, has been super dark and super brutal, almost like a Punisher level of brutal, except he doesn't murder people. But it's pretty cool to think that maybe they're gonna go a route with this Flash and Luke Cage and Jessica Jones and Iron Fist, where they're kind of brutal. Like the Defenders are kind of a brutal team, and I'd like to see them be a little bit more vicious in the way that they take down opponents. Because again, they don't have power. Well, Luke Cage does, but Daredevil doesn't really have powers. His power is to like literally just knock you the fuck out. So it's pretty cool. What do you guys think of what you've seen so far? I mean, really, it's only been a couple images. We haven't seen a trailer yet.
That was that point that you just made is probably the biggest thing that I'm looking forward to. I love the fact that these series are on Netflix and they don't have to adhere to trying to keep a movie PG-13 or like the primetime TV crowd that's a bunch of families and stuff like that. I like the idea that it might be a little bit grittier, and all of those characters are kind of characters that aren't afraid to get their hands dirty when it comes to what they need to get done. So I'm looking forward to that kind of an atmosphere in the show, apart from like the goofy silliness that we usually get in like Avengers movies and things like that. The promotional images so far look really, really good, and I know they showed a little bit of footage at the con, and that feedback from that has been pretty positive as well, so I'm excited to see it when it comes out next year. Garrick.
What do you think, Garak?
Yeah, more superheroes on TV and more superheroes being exposed and in live action is always an exciting thing. I'm really excited to see, how this progresses. Like you guys said, is it going to be more of a brutal kind of thing, or is it going to be a softer tone? Hopefully, we get a more physical and closer to like a rated R kind of thing, because we really haven't seen much of that, especially in like a TV show. So Netflix handling it, all their series so far have been pretty mature. If you've seen House of Cards or Orange is the New Black or anything like that. So I'm optimistic for that. That's probably the most exciting thing about this. Like, we don't know how it's going to be, and they can do anything they want with it. So, yeah, that's basically all I have to say on that. It's just I'm just super excited to see the
There's not a
direction they
lot. I
take.
mean, there's not a lot of stuff you can really take from this, other than
Yeah.
either you like the look of it or you don't. And I think we've kind of decided that we're in. Marvel at this point has given us more than enough to say, we have faith in you. So it's pretty cool.
Mm-hmm.
What's next on the docket
Yeah,
there?
let's jump into another pretty big Marvel announcement. So at Comic-Con, they also announced, I guess, what's going to be after Axis, the next big crossover event in the Marvel Universe, and it is titled Secret Wars, all about battling for the multiverse. So if you've been reading all of the Avengers comics lately, they've been having a lot of problems with incursions and different universes coming into contact with different universes, and it's all kind of building up to this big Secret Wars event that's going to decide what happens in the universe. And I know it has a lot of importance for a lot of people because Secret Wars is a series from way back that is highly regarded. I personally don't know a lot about it. I'm sure Nick does, though. So a lot of people are really excited about this coming up event.
I'm not going to give you a Secret Wars lesson. Secret Wars is one of those books that if you really want to read it, it's available in every single kind of print, and it's pretty crucial. Most people think of Secret Wars as the Secret Wars 8, which is the first time you see the black suit Spider-Man, but it was when it came out, it was kind of I won't say a revolutionary thing, but it was definitely a super popular title. But Secret Wars as a Jonathan Hickman event, which is the upcoming one, if you take a look at this, we don't know as a group what's going on here. All we know is that Avengers and New Avengers is boiling down to a point. If you've been reading their books, you kind of know that the shit's going down, and eventually something big is going to happen, and eventually all of what Jonathan Hickman has said is that it's all leading towards this time runs out, this Secret Wars kind of a thing. And if you look at the picture here, you're going to see a lot of different people. You'll see different versions of Nova, a ton of different versions of Iron Man, 2 different versions of Captain America. You see Ghost Rider with a chainsaw. You see a creepy clown up in the upper right-hand corner. You see different versions of Spider-Man. You see Captain America as the Falcon, Hawkeye, the Sentry. You see all kinds of different people in here. You even see a Hawkeye who kind of looks like Scorpion in the background there. But you don't see a lot of characters that Marvel doesn't have the film rights to. Mm-hmm. And the reason that I've been saying that is, and I guess this could maybe draw us into a different conversation for the day, but with this Image being released, where there's not a whole lot of non-Marvel cinematic characters in there, and the recent announcement that Marvel is canceling the Fantastic Four and kind of taking them out of the equation via maybe a murder kind of a thing, as well as a big topic we'll discuss later. Do you guys think that maybe it's specifically a title meant to maybe spark some kind of a third Avengers movie called Secret War, or a fourth Avengers movie, or something along that line? I don't know. Just getting the ball rolling.
I mean, it would be a cool idea. Marvel, if anything, has shown that they're not afraid of going the route of super comic booky stuff, if you will, multiple universes and space raccoons and stuff like that. So it would be cool. I would like to see them take on something that big, something that audiences usually wouldn't be used to. So I think it would be a good idea. I don't think it would happen for a while, but I think it would be a good idea.
What I want to know is who owns the rights to that creepy clown.
Right? That clown's kind of... I don't like that.
American Horror Story crossover? Hello? No, but I agree with Nick. Like, that's a cool possibility, especially with the rumors flying around that Marvel is trying to talk Sony into getting some Spider-Man action in the Avengers. So, you see him as a prominent figure, especially in the Secret Wars with the first black suit. Everybody knows about that. So it's a distinct possibility that this could come to fruition on the screen, and I think everybody would love it. and it would be super cool. I don't know if they could do it in like one
movie.
Contained movie. Especially with all these characters, they'd have to take time and develop everything. But I mean, one or two or three, I don't know.
It's something they'd have to build up.
Yeah, it's something to keep in your mind, though, for sure.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if Jordan is necessarily ready for this image-wise, but I want to move our topic into kind of, I guess, the what in my mind what I would consider to be the biggest news of the last 2 weeks, and that's that Sony and Marvel have been in early, what we can call delicate talks to bring Spider-Man into the Marvel Cinematic Universe. So I think that the main thing that comes from here is that Amazing Spider-Man 2 sucked. And I mean, I liked it. I think a lot of other people liked it, but we liked it for what it was, not for what it could have been. And when it came out, it didn't have that hype around it that a lot of other superhero movies, even like Guardians of the Galaxy, had. And the film itself, when it was released, it made like $65 million less than the first installment in the series, Amazing Spider-Man. So I think Sony took a look around, and after it was released in China and Japan and the other countries across the sea, they basically said, well, something isn't going well. We need to really take a step back and re-examine what's going on. And from there, a bunch of other stuff has happened in the last week. They started announcing that they were kind of in talks. Then they announced that the Sinister Six movie was kind of in a rocky situation. And then they flat out announced that the Venom film was dead, which a lot of people seem to take as, whoa, that is like a huge indicator. Mm-hmm. So I think that there's good and bad news here. The good news is that we might actually see a Spider-Man film under the Marvel umbrella that is a little bit more faithful to the source material. We could possibly get Spider-Man into the mix of these Avengers films, which opens up a boatload of stories. But at the same time, it also destroys a universe that was kind of starting to be formed. I'm not sure. I'm sure there's people out there that are really, really bummed about that. I'm not one of them, but some people out there seem to be, kind of bummed that the Spider-Man has a lot of his own characters, a lot of his extended universe, whether it be Venom or Black Cat or, all these other different characters that were introduced in the Spider-Man books that they thought that could end up getting their own movie out of this or their own, series. They all kind of feel like maybe that's all dead in the water now. And if it is, it is. Because I hope Sony and Marvel shake hands and they say, you know what, we're going to share some of this money. We're going to give fans what they want finally. And if that's the case, I mean, who knows what happens in Avengers 3, Avengers 4. Spider-Man could show up and have all kinds of fun stuff going on with those. But I don't know. What do you guys think?
I mean, it would be cool. I guess there's been talks about it before. I know the Oscorp building almost appeared in the original Avengers movie, but they were a little too late to make the cut. So I know that they've been thinking about it for a long time. And I mean, that's where Spider-Man belongs, I think, is with the rest of the most popular Marvel characters under the MCU's wing. They make better movies anyway. I'm just kind of worried about,
I think they make more confident movies. I think that they, like, Amazing Spider-Man 1 and 2 both had all the ingredients. Like Andrew Garfield, Emma Stone, they were great, but they didn't have that certain something that Marvel movies bring to the equation where they actually give themselves that confidence, that little bit of leeway. Like every Spider-Man film has had that one or two things that has really just held it back from being great. Like Amazing Spider-Man 1, the Lizard. The Lizard could have been so much more of a threat if he didn't look like a Goomba from the Super Mario movies, and he didn't show up at Peter Parker's high school. It's just like a weird thing. And then the second film, it's almost like they couldn't decide if they wanted Electro to be a hero or a villain. They couldn't decide if they wanted to have a Green Goblin in the movie. Sony as a whole just never really committed to any one idea for any film. They never gave 100% into any ideas they had. They just tried to shove as much shit into one film as they could to see if it would appeal to anybody. And I don't know.
Yeah.
That's kind of how I.
Yeah, that second film was too much setup. Too much setup for other things that people don't really immediately care about, but I agree. I think it'll be cool if they get him over there. I'm worried, do they completely reboot Spider-Man? Do they try to bring Andrew Garfield and incorporate the already existing universe over? It's all a little confusing.
Nah. They, for this to work, they have to blow up what has happened and just let Marvel take Spider-Man where they want to take him. You can introduce Spider-Man in like Avengers 3 or Avengers 4 or whatever, and then spin off, movies from there. I think that's probably the best way to approach it because they don't have a lot of time to work in new Spider-Man, especially if they make this deal. I just don't think that the first two films that they've come up with are good enough to stand with Marvel Cinematic Universe, and
Right.
they don't make enough sense plot-wise, and they wouldn't fit into what's already there. So they couldn't just shove it in and be like, I guess this is what's happening, especially in the middle of New York. You saw at the end of the first Captain America, SHIELD has, bases there when Captain America came out in the middle of Times Square. So, they would be keeping an eye on Spider-Man, and, there would have been mention of him, or somebody would have said something. So I feel like they have to blow that up.
Mm-hmm.
Spider-Man comes into his own in the Avengers 3 or whatever, and then they spin off from there. I think that's the best way to approach it. I don't know if it's going to happen that way or if it's going to happen at all, but I think that's probably the best way to do it. Especially since Andrew Garfield is going to be like 40 when Avengers 3 comes out. So
I think you can keep Andrew Garfield if you need to, but you kind of have to do the old let's pretend this shit didn't happen, or at least let's not really. I mean, there's too many aspects of the Amazing Spider-Man universe that don't really add up to, I'm sure, what Marvel wants out of a Spider-Man film. But regardless of what's going to happen, we don't know. Maybe they'll recast it, maybe they won't. But I think I think Andrew Garfield personally, I know Garrick disagrees, but I like him as Spider-Man. I think he did a good job, but direction-wise, I think that he could be a lot more if they chose to include him as a little bit more snide, a little bit more sarcastic Spider-Man. But we'll never know.
Mm-hmm.
Jordan Seth Roach, what's next on the docket?
The next picture I have is of another crossover event that we probably don't need to talk too much about it, but the Black Vortex. I know
we do need to talk about it.
I know it's a Guardians of the Galaxy and X-Men crossover, and that is literally all I know.
So, as the resident Guardians of the Galaxy fan, since Chris Bird doesn't like to hang out with us anymore and he's a jerk,
Jeez, Chris Bird.
I will say that the premise of this story is pretty cool. So, the premise of this story is that the Guardians of the Galaxy and the X-Men are both kind of looking for an artifact in the story that allows them to unlock their cosmic potential. And it kind of deals with the idea of whether or not they should do it. So I have a feeling that some people are going to unlock their powers and other people are not going to. I don't know exactly how it's going to turn out, how many characters are going to be it, who's going to be the main bad guy. I haven't heard a whole lot about it. I mean, it was just announced yesterday, but I'm in. I'm going to read it.
Mm-hmm.
So, all the X-Men books in Guardians of the Galaxy are tied up in it, so.
Which is chill.
Yeah.
I actually have really been enjoying All New X-Men now that I've picked it back up and given it a second chance. It got kind of boring there at the beginning, and I just completely dropped it. But now, it's not too bad. So, and Guardians, of course, is fantastic, so I'll be reading it as well. But let's move on into some comics. So, we can start with DC, since that's the first thing that I pulled up there. So what have you guys been reading DC-wise this week? I actually read some DC this week, by the way, so I can I can participate in the discussion.
Well, why don't you go ahead and tell us what you read?
Well, I read Batman.
I'll tell you why you're wrong.
So let's freaking talk about Batman real quick. So,
okay, hater.
Batman 35 came out this week. It's the start of Endgame, the first big series since, Zero Year was the thing.
Yeah, I
So
mean that was last month, so
Zero
two
Year was a
months ago.
prequel. In game is jumping forward in time after the events of Batman Eternal, and basically Bruce is getting attacked by the Justice League. And I'll admit that the comic was pretty good. I've been looking for a good place to jump back on to Batman because I didn't care for so long, but I really enjoyed this issue. Watching Bruce meticulously take down each member of the Justice League individually and explaining how he did it and how he was prepared was actually really cool.
The
That's
one
not what
thing
you
about
said earlier.
I was hating earlier, Greg. It's different.
the one thing I'll say about the Batman um, issue 35, the start to end game, is that Aquaman got taken out like
Like
real
freaking
quick.
Like
two,
destroyed
two
immediately.
panels. He just showed up and got wrecked instantly, and Batman was like, "Okay, adults are talking," and then moved on. It was like 75% of the issue was Batman fighting Wonder Woman,
Yeah,
which I mean,
basically.
Wonder Woman's basically a boss,
Yeah,
but
she's no pushover.
it's pretty cool.
Yeah, which makes sense in the way the issue was going, especially when he said, "I basically spent 99% of the time on the suit preparing for the Flash." So it makes sense for him to, have an easy out when he came around. But the Wonder Woman scenes were super cool. Greg Capullo again knocks it out of the park like he does every month. He's just amazing with the way he draws these characters and portrays the scenes. He works really well with Scott Snyder, and I really like the way they set up the issue with the theater at the beginning, talk about the gods and things like that, and then translating that into the end when Superman came through. And it was just a really epic ending and leaves you on a cliffhanger where you really, really want to see where this whole storyline's going.
Yeah, that cliffhanger though, that was pretty
I'm
cool.
glad to see. I'm glad to see Greg Capullo getting to draw a character that isn't just Batman. Like, it's cool to see him draw Flash or Superman or Wonder Woman because, he's. I've been a Greg Capullo fan for a very long time, and his art kind of lends itself very well to dark and kind of grimy type situations, and these characters are not. They're not dark and grimy. Like Superman is about as shiny and happy as you can get, but it's kind of cool to see what he's doing with them. It's definitely an interesting concept, and now that the main villain of this arc has been kind of identified, I think that people are gonna bite.
Can I spoil it though?
You can spoil it. I don't give a shit.
I didn't get to spoil the one earlier. This is
Yeah.
only fair.
Spoiler
But Garrett,
alert.
but Garrett, hold on. The villain was the Joker, so I'm gonna spoil it out from
Oh
under you.
my gosh!
I
wow.
spoiled it out from under you. I took your thing and I made it mine.
So let
And
the,
I
let the
mean,
people know
they,
why that's
you know,
important.
Greg and Scott said on a couple interviews that they didn't want to announce who the villain was going to be because they didn't want the book to sell on the merit that the Joker was coming back. They instead left it to audiences, and I don't think at this point they have to worry about what's going to sell and what's not.
Yeah.
Batman is consistently the best-selling book, and it has been for 2 years in a row. Only 3 months out of those last 2 years have books outsold it. So, I mean, it's clearly a book that people are into, and it's well written, well drawn. Pick it up.
Absolutely.
Yeah, what I really like about them reintroducing the Joker is I thought he didn't get his due in the New 52. It was really weird the way they introduced him in Detective Comics #1 and then never mentioned it again really in Detective Comics, and then he came in through Batman and cut his face off for not really a good reason. So I'm glad that they're bringing him back and they're gonna revisit this because the last ending of the Joker kind of left a bad taste in my mouth, and I hope they don't repeat the same kind of things that went on. But yeah, I'm excited for it.
Mm-hmm. So moving on, what else did you guys read? I think I read Batgirl. If you want to talk about Batgirl,
You can talk about
actually,
Batgirl.
Gary, go ahead and hate. Go ahead and let it out, because I know you got some strong feelings.
Okay, they're not super strong, but I won't be reading Batgirl anymore. So this issue came out, and there was a lot of excitement over the
score.
new.
Give it a numerical score out of 10.
Out of 10, I'd
Yeah.
like a 5, maybe. That's
Because
failing, right?
I also read it, and I would give it like a 4 or 5. I thought it was a very generic comic book. Newsarama gave it a 10 out of 10, and I was like, "You are clown shoes. There's no way
Yeah.
this book is perfect." Like whoever read that book and was like, "This is it. This has all the pieces I want." They should not review comic books anymore because I
They
mean,
should be fired
yes,
immediately.
Gail Simone's run on Batman or Batgirl, it wasn't bad. It wasn't my cup of tea, but it was leaps and bounds better than this. Sorry, I'm done. Garrett, go back.
That's
Sorry
fine.
for stealing.
Okay, so everybody was super excited about the new look, and I also really like the new look. I think it makes more sense. It's functional. It's got more of like a girl feel. It's not Batman's suit on a girl in high heels. So I really like that, and I was excited. I was excited for that whole spin. What I wasn't excited for was what you see here on the right is this like selfie cover. And I thought, this is what's going to happen. They're just going to try and modernize Batgirl into 2014 where she takes selfies and has parties and twerks and, whatever. I'm
Well,
not trying
what's wrong
to
with
like
that?
sound like an old fogey or whatever, but Batgirl has never traditionally been like that. She's been loyal and honest and hardworking.
She
And,
has always twerked.
Bro, you can be
Yeah.
honest and twerk at the same time.
no, you can't.
Yes, you can.
Twerkers are dishonest by nature, so I know these
Twerk
things.
for work. No, twerk
But-
for work.
But the way they portrayed her in this issue is nothing like she's been portrayed in the New 52 reboot. It's just kind of, this is what we're going to do with her, and people have to accept it the way it is.
Mhm.
And it doesn't make much sense is really why I'm upset about it. Like, it's fine if she's been this way throughout her history, but you can't just change a character so dramatically, especially after what happened in Batgirl. If you guys didn't read it, she got into a pretty big battle with her brother, who, in case anybody didn't know, is like a psychopath.
He is awesome.
Yeah, he's pretty cool. He's a pretty cool character, and she thought that she had killed him, and she was trying to live with that and the consequences of that. And her father was there when Batgirl, quote unquote, killed his son. So he has this vendetta against her, and is basically against Batgirl and won't talk to Batman because Batgirl killed his son. And you see no ramifications of this. She's living, life on the edge and partying and drinking, and it just doesn't make any sense, honestly. And the story wasn't that great either. She fought some DJ who was like hacking DC version of Tinder, which is called Hook, because he was trying to look at girls' boobs or whatever. And like, who cares? It just wasn't anything I liked or agreed with. So that's my rant about Batgirl.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair. I'll accept it.
Thank
It
you.
it wasn't fantastic. I'll read another issue or two to see if things take a turn for the better. Probably just because I really like the redesign. I like her new outfit, the way it looks, and the fact that when you take over a new series, sometimes it takes an issue or two to get going. So I'll give it the benefit of the doubt for a couple issues. It's nothing fantastic, but I'll definitely still look into it. Is it funny that the longest conversation we've ever had about Batgirl was when Rachel wasn't here? Or is
Yep.
it terrible?
It's pretty much on point.
Probably both. Did anybody read Injustice Year 3?
No, I haven't read it yet.
I heard that it
Then
was
again,
really good.
if I can say something, I didn't read any of year 2 or year 1. So I mean,
Garrick always tries to get me to read Injustice, and I still haven't gotten into it, but it always gets stellar reviews, so I was wondering if it was...
I know I'm sure it's awesome. It's one of those books that I'm so far behind that I'd have to go back and reread everything, and I feel like that's like a whole Saturday for me,
Absolutely.
which I spent this past Saturday and today drinking. So you'll never know.
Anything that
What
we
about
missed, DC?
Marvel?
We can skip over to Marvel real quick. Marvel, a couple of big things happened. I guess Axis is the biggest thing. Marvel's big fall event started this week. And I thought I really enjoyed it. It was a little bit fast-paced. Faster paced than like what Original Sin started. I appreciated action right off the bat. Some emotional stuff going on in there, some repercussions from Original Sin. It had a lot. So I was really into it. What about you guys?
I liked Access a lot, but it's one of those books that I understand if you don't like it because it's work.
Hmm.
You have to understand what's going on within the Marvel universe, within the Uncanny X Force books and the Uncanny Avengers books.
Hmm.
If you just jump in and you're like, "Yeah, I'm gonna read Axis," then it is gonna seem a little bit overwhelming to understand, why these characters are in the position that they're in. But if you have been reading those books, the payoff is so good. And Rick Remender writes characters in a way that really, I mean, there are certain character relationships that are starting to flesh out that are really, 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 really good. And I've been into it for a while. I'm pretty pumped. So it is one of those things that if you want to get around to reading about the interactions between Wanda and Rogue, or Cyclops and his brother Havoc, or even Havoc and his wife. There's so much depth to what's going on in this universe that not in this universe in specific, but in the book itself, and what Rick Remender's trying to do by weaving a giant tapestry with all these characters in it, then I think that you're really going to enjoy the payoff. I've seen a couple reviews kind of trash it. Again, Newsarama gave it a 3 out of 10, but they're fucking garbage. So they have no respect of mine. If whoever reviewed that book, it was like their first day. But the art, while the art
Was
is
it the same?
while
Was
the
it
art
the
isn't
same
the most
person that?
acceptable.
Okay, Nick, just talk over me. It's fine.
Same
Well,
person that
all
reviewed
the God damn
Go ahead.
it! I don't
Go
know
ahead.
if it was the same person, Garrick. But the art wasn't the best thing in the world, but the story is still really good. I definitely recommend it. I wouldn't give it a perfect score or anything like
Right.
that, but I mean, it's at least one of those books that if you're into if you want a good Marvel crossover event to read, and you're fairly well caught up on what Rick Remender's been doing across the different titles that he's been publishing, then do yourself a favor and pick up this book because it's sweet.
Hmm. I really appreciated the payoff. As somebody that's been reading most of those books, it's nice to kind of see everything come together and make it feel like it was worth following these books for so long. So I've been really enjoying that. Garrick, did you read Axis? Maybe?
No.
Terrible. Terrible. Oh,
So it got a 3 out of 10, guys. I wasn't interested.
bro, come on. What what else is big in the Marvel world? So in the top of this picture, you'll notice two spider ladies that you might not be familiar with.
What up, girls?
And both of those ladies are getting their own series. So in the Edge of Spider-Verse series, we're introduced to Gwen Stacy's Spider-Woman. I guess Spider-Woman, Spider-Girl, I don't know what they're calling her. But she spurns out of a universe where Peter Parker doesn't get bit, she gets bit. And I guess that first issue was positive enough that they've gone ahead and given her the green light for her own series. You guys going to be reading that?
I mean, I've already read the Edge of Spider-Verse stuff, and I'm reading um, Amazing Spider-Man. So yeah, I'll probably keep going because it seems like Gwen Stacy's a character that has stayed dead for a number of years, and they finally figured out a way to pull her ass back into the Marvel universe that isn't completely ridiculous. But a lot of people like the look of her. It seems to me like if you draw a cool costume on a character, they're probably going to be pretty popular.
Mm-hmm.
And Silk as a character, I think, is almost kind of ridiculous, almost kind of a slap in the face to people that are longtime Spider-Man fans. Like, hey, by the way, there was also another person that Spider bit, and it was a
Right.
girl, and no one's ever heard of her because she's been in a locker for 20 years. But like, it's one of those things. Who cares? We'll get over the ridiculousness of the backstory as long as the characters are well written. But again, I will say that this is a prime case of Marvel going, hey, there seems to be a lot of people saying we don't have enough strong female lead characters. So they really stepped their game up and they were like, guess what, bitch? 2 more Spider-Men, but guess what? They're women. Thor, yeah, that's a girl now. Spider-Woman, there's another girl. Like Captain Marvel, there's a girl. Like they're throwing a lot of strong female leads in there, which I'm totally cool with. Like I want them to be quality characters instead of quantity characters,
Mhm.
So
Absolutely.
see how that goes.
Absolutely. Anybody read any
Get,
other?
yeah, I read Amazing Spider-Man. I read some stuff last week that was pretty good, but I mean, the stuff that we talked about already is really the main
The crux of
pin.
it. Absolutely. Anything to chime in there, Gag? Marvel-wise, I know you're not a big Marveler.
No, I mean, I'm a Spider-Man guy, so that's cool. I usually try to come in during events and things like that. Right now, I'm really just reading a lot of older stuff because Chris Bird went ahead and gave me the green light on that Marvel Unlimited. So I've been reading the heck out of Guardians, and I've been reading a lot of Big Hero 6 to catch up for the new movie that's coming out. So that's pretty hyped for that. But yeah, as far as new stuff goes, it's mainly just the Spider-Man stuff, which is the big thing right now. So.
Right, Garrick, did you read Guardians 3000?
No, I was gonna buy it at my local comic book store today, but they didn't have any.
I picked it up. I really, really, really liked it. It was one of those books again that comic book critics didn't like, but typically comic book critics are going to tell you if their favorite character was represented very well instead of, in my opinion, what a good comic book is. And I think Guardians 3000 by Dan Abnett is really good. And I read a couple reviews that gave it a poor score that said, oh my gosh, you have to know so much about Guardians before this book to even get along with it. You really don't, like, at all. You honestly, the very first page of this book tells you everything that you need to know. If you can't find your way through the book just by reading that very first page, then your reading comprehension skills are probably not up to par. I'm actually going to wonder how you went ahead and passed fifth grade. But it's a really good book. I won't say that the writing is on a fifth grade level, but it's a cool book. I liked it a lot. It is full of characters that you've never heard of before unless you followed 1990s or 1980s Guardians of the Galaxy, but it's definitely a cool book. Pick it up.
Absolutely. Let's move on here to, I guess, the last little bit here, and those are books that aren't Marvel and DC.
We're not going to talk about Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, though, because people out there want us to talk about it.
Why would we talk about Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles? I guess the biggest book that came out this week was Scott Snyder's new book on Image Comics called Witches.
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 Whoa, that's our word.
Yeah, it's our word for them. You can't use that word.
So
everybody here has read Witches, right? You haven't read it. That's the sound that you make when you don't know. I heard him.
That was read.
I read it. It was okay. It's already been optioned by Brad Pitt's studio for a movie, which is weird considering the first issue was just announced, or that was just released the other day. But I'm sure that he's probably read more issues or at least more script than we have, and it's obviously building towards something cool. But the story centers around a girl who was bullied, and she moves to a new town, and there's some witches inside of trees, and they kill some people. And it's pretty cool. I mean, I'll give Scott Snyder the benefit of the doubt. The first issue didn't initially hook me. I feel like a lot of people are going to climb the Scott Snyder anything you do is amazing thing, but it was a decent comic. It wasn't anything that blew my mind apart, but the art was really good. Jock's a really good artist. I mostly read comics for the art anyway, but it was really cool art. Definitely awesome.
Mm-hmm. I'm a little worried. I'm not gonna lie. I haven't read it yet, so I have absolutely no judgment. But I'm a little worried with the fact that they're already talking about there's a movie coming. That kind of makes me feel like they're just throwing everything behind it. It might not be good. It might be, who knows, but they're still going to push it so hard because they want this movie to be successful. So to announce this early on after one issue that there's a movie plan and Brad Pitt's involved and all that kind of stuff, for whatever reason, has me a little skeptical about the book. Might just
One thing I'm skeptical about is me being able to get it for freaking cover price now that this movie thing's announced. It's probably going for like $200.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, anytime they announce a comic is getting picked up for something other than being a comic book, the prices drive themselves up. I luckily picked this up just because I saw a couple of them and was like, I knew this book was coming out, and Scott, a decently, I was a huge fan of Scott Snyder's The Black Mirror before it was cool to be a fan of it. No big deal, but Jock did a lot of the art for that. And when this was announced, I was like, you know what? That's a team up that I can invest in, whether it's only for a few issues or not. But again, I'm not saying this book is garbage or anything like that. I'm just saying it's one of those books that it's a horror story. It's going to take 10 issues to get around to telling you something. That's just the nature of the beast. But it's something that, again, people like Brad Pitt have probably read this and said, okay, dude, there's something here that I can sell. So I feel like it's going to get pretty good. And if you read the story, I'm sure you'll really dig it. Check it out. I mean, the nice thing about Image Comics is they're only $3. They're not $12.50 like fucking Marvel and DC seem to be jacking up their prices every week.
Yeah.
But and lowering the page count. But pick it up. Check it out. I think it's a pretty good book.
Absolutely. You guys still read Black Science?
No.
Nobody?
Rest in peace, Black Science.
I remember it used to have all this hype around it, and we talked about it like every week, and then all of a sudden, it kind of just fell off. Did it just get bad?
What happened?
I mean, it's one of those books that I'm reading so much stuff right now that it fell to the wayside.
Yeah.
Ooh,
Yeah,
that
I
was
can't.
weird.
I can't. No, I mean I can't. Yeah, it was weird. I can't read every. It isn't feasible for me to read every book. I mean, I read a lot. I read novels. I read comic books. I read old manuscripts. But no, I mean I read a lot of different stuff, and I just don't have the time to read everything that I wish I could. And I feel like Black Science is going to be one of those books that, while I'm sure it's good, and I am a Rick Remender fan, I'll pick it up and trade. I just don't have the time to dedicate. I'd rather read all of it in one shot and say, you know what, that was pretty decent, than like sit around month after month and go, I wonder what's going to happen to the Galaxy Crew, whatever the hell they're calling themselves in that book. It's like sliders. The whole book's concept is like sliders. Like they keep jumping between multiple universes or dimensions or whatever the hell they're doing. It's cool, but I mean, it's just not something that grabbed my attention enough for me to jump on, especially when I'm trying to get caught up on what's going on in some of the different corners of the main the main two universes here.
Right. Sweet. Anything else? Anybody reading anything else?
I think that's about it. I mean, there's tons of different. One thing I'll say before we go tonight is, there's so much news around this time of year. It seems like, quarterly there seems to be an influx of knowledge around the times that different Comic Cons take place, and then just every 8 or so weeks there seem to be a fairly decent amount of news dropping. But if you aren't following our Facebook page or our Twitter, jump on there. If you're not following us on Instagram, do it, because we post most of the newest information that's out there on those. So if you're waiting for us a lot of times we simply don't have time to discuss everything on our 1 hour blocks, weekly or bi-weekly or whenever we get around to having the podcast, because there's so many people involved in getting one of these to take place. But jump on there. That's the best place to converse with us. If you guys want to ask us, hey, what did you think about Amazing Spider-Man number 6 or whatever, ask us on there. We're totally down with having constructive conversations on there. There's stuff that I wish I had time to talk to, like Brian Wood is taking over Spawn, which is awesome, but unfortunately, no one cares about Spawn, so we're not going to waste 30 minutes talking about what's happening in the world of Spawn. I'd rather talk to you guys about that on our Facebook page. So jump on there, let us know what you guys think, ask us questions. Again, at the bottom of this page on our Twitch page, or if you're watching on YouTube, it's twitch.tv/The Legends Comicast. You have all of our stuff, everything from our bios to a place that you can donate if you want to. To this date, I believe our donation amount has been 0. So if you have any extra cash lying around you want to donate for us to improve the quality of this stuff, then we'll be more than happy to accept that from you. But let us know what's going on. If you guys have questions, contact us on Facebook. If you guys want us to cover anything that isn't Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles related, I'll be happy to do that. So
Wow.
I feel like that is it for the day.
Yep.
Garrick, Jordan, anything else for the day?
Just the one thing. Keep an eye
No,
on
we've already committed to
It's quick. It's
canceling.
quick. It's quick. It's quick. It's
Okay,
quick. It's
all
quick.
right.
Keep an
Makes
eye on the
sense.
Facebook page for our reviews. We're going to start doing a review of all of the big comic book shows every week. So I'll be handling Agents
Since I
of
read
Shield.
comics, I also read. I also do comic book reviews on there as
Oh
well.
yeah,
So,
that too.
if you're wondering how I feel about a comic book, chances are usually I will post a review on there. Whether it's I try to keep it pretty quick, about a paragraph. I'm not going to be like, well, the art was very reminiscent of the old. Like, I'm not going to do that. I'll just give you the nitty gritty of whether or not you should buy a book. I'll give it a numerical score, and then if, whether or not you feel that you can trust me, whether or not you should buy that book. But yeah, we're going to be doing reviews for Arrow, Flash, Constantine, Walking Dead, everything that's coming out. Tons of comic books, tons of movies. We'll be happy to accept your opinions as well, but mostly just trust ours because we're good at this stuff. So, all right. Anybody else for the good of the group?
No.
All right, cool.
No.
Thank you for listening to us here at the Legends Comicast. That is it for the day, and thank you, and support your local comic book store.